There have been some big layoffs at Twitter, and evidently some big layoffs coming at Facebook, also called Meta. And quite honestly, I'm thrilled about both. Now, whenever I say things like this on social media, inevitably someone goes, Dinesh, this is very insensitive because you are taking pleasure in people being fired before the holidays. And my reply to that is, no, I take equal pleasure when people are fired after the holidays, as long as it's the right people and they're being fired for the right reasons. Now, why should we feel any sympathy for these nasty, vicious, thuggish censors? For months, if not years, they have been gleefully knocking people off, shutting them down, blocking them, putting their hands on the dials and magnifying this guy because he's their friend. By the way, it's also come out that there are people at Twitter who might have been taking backdoor money to verify people. Elon Musk himself said this requires investigation. So in other words, they're saying, listen, you wouldn't normally qualify to be verified, but if you pay me, I'll make sure you're verified. So these people are, they like to pose as if they're major idealists, but they're not. They're deeply corrupt. They're deeply partisan. And so putting them out on the street is the least that could happen to them. They deserve far worse. Now, the same with Meta. I'm delighted that their whole metaverse is turning out to be a dud. They've made some horrible decisions. And so again, a whole bunch of bad people are going to be let go. Now, in that case, for different motives. Zuckerberg is just basically cutting costs. There's a very interesting post. This is by a guy from the NAACP. In our meeting, Elon Musk made a commitment that he would do his part to protect the integrity of these midterms. But just days later, he fired employees at Twitter who oversee election and disinformation. And my point is, disabling the censorship police in this way is protecting the integrity of the midterms. You know why? Because in the 2020 election, we had a lopsided situation, an unlevel playing field. Twitter was actually making in-kind contributions to the Democratic Party by shutting down the opponents of the Democrats. So what we want on Twitter is a level playing field. We want free and open debate. That's what's essential for for a genuine and functioning democracy. So Elon Musk is actually helping democracy by dismantling this whole regime of, quote, election monitors. These election monitors are not genuine monitors. I've mentioned before, they're not just going around looking for so-called hate speech so people can feel safe on Twitter. They are going around essentially policing all kinds of information on all the key topics that we're fighting over in this country, that we're arguing about. Topics like COVID, the legitimacy of shutdowns, the question of election integrity, climate change. I mean, if we can't debate these topics, what can we debate? Where is the debate supposed to occur if not over these issues that people genuinely disagree about? And now, when Elon Musk tweeted out, kind of a somewhat enigmatic tweet, Twitter needs to become by far the most accurate source of information about the world. That's our mission. And of course, insofar, the statement itself is a noble mission. The problem comes in with who decides what is accurate information. The defense of free speech is based upon the idea that no one decides, that there are certain things that it's illegal to say, and that's very limited. And otherwise, you allow accurate information to emerge out of the crucible of debate. But here's a journalist, a guy named Kyle Grantham. He's sarcastically saying that Elon Musk wants people to pay him $8 to get a blue check verification, and then they can be, quote, a legitimate source of news. And then he adds, rather than just ensuring all legitimate sources of news are confirmed, And he's talking, of course, about these news organizations and these so-called arbiters of truth. And Elon Musk rightly replies and says, you represent the problem. Journalists who think they are the only source of legitimate information. That's the big lie. And I couldn't agree more, not only because journalists are not the only source of legitimate information, but journalists are actually the biggest liars of them all. In other words, journalists, if you look at the lies that the mainstream journalistic community has put out in the last 5 years, they actually are worse. They are greater in magnitude and more destructive in effect than any lies put out by any QAnon conspiracy theorists, in large part because those lies, although they might reach some ears, the journalistic lies are reaching the most influential people in America and are working together. So you have a kind of, you might almost call it a sort of ecosystem of lies. That is NPR puts out a lie, it's then reinforced by the New York Times, reinforced by PBS, and so reinforced by CBS News. And so the lie essentially is like a snowball that continues to gain snow. Happy to see that Kathy Griffin, the so-called comedian, I mean, this is an unfunny comedian. You can't really laugh at her anymore. She used to be kind of funny in the old days when she, but not anymore. In any event, she was apparently using Elon Musk's name, pretending that she was Elon Musk. Now, if there's one thing that should be stopped, it is identity theft. You can't pretend to be someone else and tweet, quote, in their name. And so sure enough, Kathy Griffin has been suspended. Now, a lot of people on the left like, if I'm going to be leaving Twitter, I'll never be seen on Twitter again. But of course, Kathy Griffin pops right back, now tweeting under her mom's name. And apparently her mom is dead. So she's like, listen, I'm going to tweet in my dead mom's name. So Kathy Griffin is clearly addicted to Twitter, and Elon Musk rightfully just prevents her from her masquerading. Well, she's been masquerading as a comedian for a while now, but she's being prevented from masquerading as Elon Musk.